In this video, I try to make all of this stuff work. Well, I'm here in the back room. I've got all the equipment for now, and I'm gonna be doing it here on this table because I figure it's better to bench test it and figure out how it all works, because I don't have a really good instruction manual or a real decent diagram on how it all works. So we're gonna hook it up inside the house. I'll show you how we do that, get it all working, and then we'll take it out to the car and show you how it's gonna work on there. So let's get with it. Now I have this manual, but it's for the 3600. Now the 3600 and the 3700 aren't that far off, but they're off just enough to where you're going to have to be mindful of what you're doing. So I do have a schematic for that. This is right out of the instruction manual. This is about the closest I could get to this, but we'll go over that here in a minute. And I did go find myself an old power converter, and this right here should mimic the car battery. I don't have to drag car batteries and stuff in here, so I can hook it all up to a 12-volt converter, same as a car. It's the same thing I use to test out car stereos and whatnot. So we got that, and we can hook it all up to the regular police stuff. So I'll show you what else I got. I got a good deal on all this equipment. I'm not going to talk about the box on the bottom. I'm missing some pieces on that, and I don't think that's going to be good. This is the siren box. It has the lights in it. This right here I think is actually broken. It's not. It hits the 3 separate warnings, but I don't know if the horns and all that stuff work. But the back is similar to the instruction manual, but it involves a whole bunch, but it's labeled. So these are for the lights, these are for the horns, speakers, stuff like that. This is for the comm, this is for the horns, sirens, whatnot, and this is for the lights. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but we're also going to have to build some brackets to mount it in the console, which I'll show you here in a minute. Now, what we got here is pretty much the last box, without the exception of the PA system and the comms and the horn. It's this right here covers. So basically, it's not the same. It's got the 3 lights sets right here, but it also has auxiliary switches, so you can hook up separate lights. The takedown, which is for your light bar. Your left alley, which is basically the lights on the side of the light bar if you want to shoot off into the alleys off to the sides. That's what these are. It's pretty self-explanatory. I've already taken it apart and labeled it. And then while I was at the pawn shop, I found just a straight light box. It's pretty much the same. It's got the right alley, the left alley, the auxiliary, but let's see, rear flashers, front flashers, and the light rotate. I actually think this might have come out of a tow truck. So it's very tow truck-esque. So we got that. But I went and got myself a trailer light wiring kit. Now the reason I got this was because I needed a set of lights that were separate from the car, so I didn't have to splice anything. So I can actually take this, wire it up to these boxes, and use them. Now, the reason I chose these were because they're incandescent. They're not, these boxes are all made to run on incandescent bulbs and not LEDs. So I wanted to get as close to what I'm dealing with the car to test it out here on the table. So what we're going to do is tear it all apart and see what we got, and we'll start hooking up boxes to it. So let's get to it. Now what we're doing is we're getting the leads set up for the power converter. We don't need really any real big lines, but we're going to permanently, well, not permanently, but we're going to mount those lines in there. That way we don't have to keep undoing it from the back here. Now, nothing here is going to be permanent. So what we're doing is just making it to where we can do some quick disconnects and whatnot. And then we'll plug it in, and then we'll use a bit of this wire here to start routing up. Now, these little lights here are internally grounded through the back, so we'll have to put a lead on here, but this is the power line. It grounds through the frame on the trailer, so we'll put a ground here. But these, well, these also ground, so we're going to have to put a grounding lead on here too. So I'll take it apart, see which stud is the ground, and then we'll go ahead and hook these up. So let's get to that. Okay, so we got the converter hooked up. We're going to turn it on and see how this stuff works. We'll strip a little bit of wire off this light here, maybe. And I made the white one as a ground and the other one is a power, so we'll just twist it here real quick, see if this thing works, and see if I don't electrocute myself. So let's flip it on. And we got light, so that's a good sign. So we know this works. We're going to use these in another function. So let's turn that off. And now let's start hooking up our light box. Okay, so I figured out how to get to the switched power now. So now that we have the switched power working, I got this to work through this wire here. So, but now we got this working. Let's go ahead and hook some lights up to it and see what happens. Okay, so now we got the light hooked up. Let's see, I got it hooked up to the right alley switch, so flip the switch, so we know that works. And now I'm going to hook it up to the left alley switch. So now we got it hooked up to the left alley. We'll hit the switch. That works. Let's see if we can get it hooked up to these and see if we can get them to alternate. So we got this hooked up here. I've got to hold on to that. See if I can get this. So we get that all hooked up like that, and that light comes on. So I have 3 wires for the 3 different lights, so that's kind of interesting. I probably ought to, wire's starting to get hot, so let me hook up one of these bigger ones and see if we can't get something to alternate. So we got the second one hooked up. So seems like it all works. Well, that one's actually unhooked on the inside. So let's hook a couple of lights up to this and see what happens. So we got this working. That's the front flasher. Let's see if we can find the rear flasher. Maybe. As I sit here and try not to electrocute myself. So we got 2 of the lights hooked up, flashers. So that's kind of cool. Now, this box and this box have relays in them. I have to hook all the wires up to get them to pulsate. That's actually got some pretty cool relays in them. You need the relays so the lights will flash, and I haven't got everything completely hooked up like that, but I know the boxes work, and that's the important thing. Now, if you're one of those dorks that went out and bought a whole bunch of equipment without really knowing what you need, I'm your man. I went and wasn't sure about all of this, so I did buy extra. I wasn't sure. I need to figure out how to get them to alternate, but here's the thing that I'm finding out. This equipment's a lot older than the car. So I may not be able to conventionally put it in that car, but when we go out there and do it, we'll figure that out. So this has been a learning experience for all of us. So let me go ahead and we'll go over the siren box and see what we can make happen there. So I've got this hooked up. So don't have any of this stuff hooked up yet. So I do got a speaker over there though. So now we got that hooked up. Let's see if we can hook up the rest of it. So now I hit the switch. So we got that working. That's all right. Okay, so I got all the lights working. I got the power working on the PA. Turn the PA off. But here's the cool part. Turn the whale on. Nope, you have to have the PA on. You can kind of hear it. So as soon as I can figure out how to get the right siren hooked up to it, we'll have some loud noise. Now that we've pretty much done a function check, I need to do a little more with that box. I'm probably going to use this box solely, and I don't know what I'm going to do with those other boxes yet, but I'm sure I'll find something fun to do with them. So now, as soon as we got this, but we have to figure out how to mount it. So I'm going to show you the console we're going to mount it in. And I got something else kind of neat the other day. This is the console that we're going to be using. I have to build a plate to mount all the stuff in. And the other day I actually found a laptop stand that mounts to the seat bolts. So we're going to use that too. So we're out here in the car now, and let me show you what's going to happen. I'm going to have to take out this seat, and we're going to pull all this carpet out all the way to the back, and probably clean it again. But we want to get under here. You can see where the old console was kind of sitting, but dirty little secret is there's actually air conditioning ducts running right here. So I'm going to have to figure out where all those run, and hopefully maybe build a stand to so there's a standoff so I can get it above the AC ducts. Now we're going to get that mounted, and then we're going to have to figure out all the wiring for it, and that's what's also going to happen when we pull the carpet up. So let me be clear, I'm not building an actual police car. I need to make that known up front. I'm having a little fun with some equipment I have, and I'm putting it in. But there's a lot of legal things that I have to keep in mind. I can't use certain colors. I can't do any of this stuff off my own property. You know, it's you're treading a fine line. So I'm having some fun with it, and we're going to hook it up and all that, but it's not something that's probably going to be kept on this car for very long. And I'll explain why a little later. Well, I can explain why now. The actual wiring harness and all this is done through an ECU, and it's a kind of a standalone system that plugs into the computer. And the lighting ECU talks to the car computer, and it flashes the lights accordingly and does what it needs to do through a series of relays, diodes, and all that. So it's a whole lot easier than having to splice into wires and do all that. And I'm really not crazy about that. We're going to splice into a couple of wires. I'm actually going to see if I can't get some, you know, plugs and whatnot to do it correctly, because I like this car. I don't want to tear it up. So what we're going to be doing in the next video is tearing out this, figuring out where all of this goes, and getting the console set in. And hopefully, I can get the console set in and get the plates built for the top. And I'd like to get the equipment set in, and then we can start running a few wires and all that. I'm probably going to build my own little wiring harness with a plug. That way, when all's said and done, I can run the wires, get them where they need to go, put the console together. We can just plug it in rather than having to go through and splice each individual wire on the car. It ends up being a whole lot easier that way. So we're looking forward to it. We're going to start tearing this apart, and we'll get the laptop stand put in. That's going to be really cool. And the console and all that. So we got a lot of work ahead of us. So I appreciate it. I know this video really wasn't all that deep, but I was just going over and showing how I hooked up the boxes, and we pre-tested them on the table. It's pretty self-explanatory. You got power, you got a ground. And as long as you have those, you can sit there and manipulate the wires where they need to go. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next video.